José Soriano is doing something we genuinely have not seen in a very long time. And the Blue Jays front office would be lying to you if they said they weren't watching every single one of his starts right now. 4 starts, 27 innings, 1 earned run, a 0.33 ERA, and a bWAR of 1.8 that already leads all of Major League Baseball. That's not a hot streak. That's not some guy running good on a few starts and getting lucky. That is a 27-year-old right-hander on the Los Angeles Angels who looks like he just figured something out that the rest of baseball hasn't caught up to yet, and the scary part is the Angels are losing anyway. They're 4-8 in every game Soriano doesn't pitch. He is the only reason that team looks competent on any given night. And eventually, someone in the Angels front office is going to have a conversation that goes in a very specific direction. That direction points right at a trade. And if that conversation happens, you better believe Ross Atkins is going to be one of the first calls they make. Now look, I want to be upfront about where we are with this. Soriano has not been placed on the trade block. The Angels have not announced anything. Nobody is packing boxes in Los Angeles. But Zach Presnell over at Fastball on SI put out a piece this week naming Soriano as a legitimate target the Blue Jays could pursue. And when you sit down and actually think about the fit, about what Toronto needs right now and what Soriano represents, it makes so much sense that it's almost uncomfortable to talk about. Because the moment you start imagining him in a Blue Jays rotation, you realize how much this team needs exactly what he is. Let's start with what Toronto is dealing with right now, because the context matters here. This has been a rough start to the year. Injuries have stacked up in the rotation in ways that nobody fully anticipated heading into the spring. The offense has been cold. They just made a surprising trade with the Chicago White Sox to bring in Lenyn Sosa in an attempt to get something going on that side of the ball, and they had to option Tyler Fitzgerald to make room. That's a roster crunch born out of necessity, not design. The front office is clearly in problem-solving mode right now, and the pitching situation is very much part of the equation they're trying to solve. When you lose arms, you lose margin. You lose the ability to have a bad offensive night and still compete because your starter is going to keep you in it. You lose the games where the bullpen is gassed and you need someone to eat 5 or 6 innings. You lose the identity that makes a contender feel like a contender when September rolls around. And what Soriano represents is the exact antidote to that. He doesn't just add depth, he adds a genuine front-of-the-rotation ace who has the ability to change the entire complexion of a pitching staff overnight. Think about what 9 hits and 1 earned run over 27 innings actually looks like in practice. That means batters are getting on base, they're getting hits. He's not throwing a perfect game every 5 days, but somehow, despite everything, they're not scoring. He is stranding runners. He is bearing down in critical moments. He is doing the thing that separates a really good pitcher from a truly elite one, which is taking his stuff and his command and making it mean something when the game is on the line. That's the part that doesn't always show up in a box score, but that every manager and pitching coach in baseball can feel immediately when they have it in their rotation. And here's what makes Soriano even more interesting as a target beyond just the current numbers. Over the previous 2 seasons, 53 appearances, he was already pitching to a 3.93 ERA with a 4.2 bWAR. So this is not a guy who came out of nowhere and threw 4 amazing starts and now everybody is overreacting. This is a guy who was already genuinely good, who was already building towards something, and who looks like he is now arriving at the version of himself that people around that Angels organization probably expected when they first started developing him. This 2026 breakout has a foundation. It's not smoke and mirrors. The contract situation is what really makes this complicated, and I think it's worth being honest about that. Soriano is under control through 2026 and into 2 more years beyond that. So if you're the Angels and you're sitting there watching this guy turn into potentially the best pitcher in baseball right now, you're not just trading a rental. You're trading a young, controllable ace at the precise moment he is becoming exactly what you always hoped he'd be. That is not a move any front office makes casually. That is a move that takes an overwhelming offer to even get to the phone call stage. For Toronto, That means the asking price would be severe. We are talking about a package that almost certainly involves multiple top prospects and probably an established big league contributor as well. This is not a trade where you send over 2 or 3 B-level prospects and some cash and shake hands. The Angels would demand a haul that fundamentally reshapes the Blue Jays farm system, and Ross Atkins would have to sit down and make a very difficult decision about what this window is worth and how far he's willing to go to chase it. That's the real question here. How serious is this front office about 2026? Because a move for José Soriano is a declaration. It's a statement that says, we believe we are close enough to the top that it justifies mortgaging significant prospect capital to get there. And after the start Toronto has had after the injuries and the cold bats and the Lennon Sosa trade, that's a harder case to make than it would have been if the team was sitting at the top of the division right now. But here's the thing. The season is young. It's still April. The Blue Jays have the roster and the talent to turn this around, and a win against the Brewers on Tuesday is not nothing. It's a reminder that the pieces are there when things start clicking. And if this team can find its footing over the next 6 to 8 weeks, if the rotation can get healthy and the offense can wake up, they could arrive at the trade deadline in a very different position than they look right now. That changes the calculus entirely on a move like this. And none of that even addresses the fact that if Soriano keeps pitching the way he's pitching, he will be the most coveted arm at the deadline. Full stop. Not one of the most coveted, the most coveted. A 27-year-old with a sub-1 ERA, 2+ years of control remaining, and a bWAR that is lapping the rest of the league? Every contender in baseball is going to be in on that conversation. The Yankees, the Dodgers, the Phillies, everyone. Toronto would be bidding in the most competitive trade market deadline in recent memory, and they would need to have something that the Angels genuinely cannot say no to. That is the challenge. That is also why this is worth watching so closely over the next couple of months. Presnell is right to flag Soriano as a name to monitor, not because a deal is imminent or because there's smoke coming out of any backroom conversation right now, but because the circumstances exist for this to develop into something real. The Angels are losing. Soriano is making them look competent anyway. At some point, someone in that front office is going to have to make a decision about whether they're actually building towards something or whether they're going to take the best return they can get while Soriano's value is at its absolute peak. If they decide to sell, and there is a real possibility that they do given the direction that franchise has been trending, then the Blue Jays need to be ready. Atkins needs to know exactly what he's willing to offer. The scouting department needs to have their read on Soriano's stuff and his durability and his mechanics locked in. The internal conversations about which prospects are truly untouchable and which ones are movable need to happen now, before July, before the frenzy kicks in and everyone is operating on a 48-hour deadline with a phone that won't stop ringing. Preparation is everything in trade deadline situations. The teams that win those moments are the ones who did the work in April and May when nobody was paying attention. The Dodgers have been doing this for years. The Astros built a dynasty on it. You make the plan before the fire drill, not during it. And right now, in April 2026, the fire drill looks like it could be coming. Because José Soriano is the best pitcher in baseball through 4 starts, he plays for a team that is struggling badly without him, and the Blue Jays are a franchise that is desperate for exactly what he brings. The match is obvious. Whether the price ever gets paid is a different question entirely, but you better believe Toronto has noticed, and if Soriano keeps this up into May and June, this stops being a rumor column item and starts being a genuine defining decision for this front office. Keep watching his starts. Keep watching the Angels record, because somewhere in the next 2 months, this thing is either going to get very real very fast, or it's going to quietly disappear. There is no in-between with a player like this.